I am currently a business major. I am in a sorority. I'm the president of Active Minds.
I'm taking Chem 14A, I'm taking Bio 7A, and I'm taking Scandinavian, and then I'm also taking an upper division class.
I can't get a job because of how busy my schedule is.
Free time, at least, is not really a thing that exists anymore.
I typically wake up at like 6 in the morning because I never sleep.
I sometimes don't even sleep at all the entire week.
I've slept 4 hours in the past 2 days.
And on top of that, I also have to go to work, and I work probably like 5 hours a day.
You're constantly trying to meet new people, and on top of that, managing your classes, managing your time, joining clubs.
And once that one is done, I will go home, sometimes get to go to the grocery store if I'm lucky.
I'm up to my knees in homework. Like after this, I got a presentation to write, a paper to revise, a paper to write, another presentation to rehearse.
I probably spend around maybe 14, 15 hours.
30 to 40 hours.
35 hours in total per week doing homework.
A lot of hard classes at school.
And a lot of responsibilities for those classes.
And just memorizing them and getting tested.
And then wake up at 6 and do it again.
Yeah, it's constantly a cycle of stress.
It's very difficult and stressful.
School is crazy. Life is crazy. Yeah, that's it.
My school has always played a huge part in my mental health, negatively, and I just kind of felt like I was drowning in work. Everything in my mental health history kind of boils down to me trying to figure out what I want to do career-wise, and there's so much pressure, especially in college, to try to figure out what you want to do. It's kind of hard to deal with being depressed. And I remember the day that I went to the hospital, to the ER, I went to my room and I was self-harming. I was cutting at that point. So I was going to my room to cut, and my mom just kind of stopped me. And she was just like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She's just like, "You're not okay. We need to talk." And so we sat down and we had a family meeting, and sorry, it was the first time that I saw my parents cry, and I told them everything. I didn't tell them that I self-harmed at that point. They actually found out when I was in the hospital. I felt like everything that led up to that point was just basically the pressure of trying to figure out who you need to be or who you want to be when you grow up, school and grades, and just body image and little small things. It was basically all internalized angst, and it just got to a tipping point where I couldn't do it anymore.
Bree was a film production student with me. We started freshman year together. She was the first person I met at Chapman. I don't know, she was just the kindest person. She was the center of kind of, making sure everybody was having fun and that everyone was happy, and just this incredibly bright person. Yeah. I guess it was halfway through the first semester. She was having problems with anxiety. She was having panic attacks that were keeping her from going to class, and she was having some problems with a lot of self-doubt and stuff, but it didn't strike me as anything that wasn't normal, because we were all going through it. After all getting together and talking about what happened, we all kind of agreed that she changed at some point. And after that point of kind of sort of turning into herself and away from people and school and everything. She didn't think that she belonged here. And so she dropped out like a month into second semester and went home. Then at a certain point, she turned her phone off, and 2 months later, she committed suicide in June. And yeah. I don't know, suicide happens when you are not in your right mind. She really needed to be treated and she wasn't. And you know, it's a terrible place to be in a psych ward, but you need to be on suicide watch because you're not in your right mind and you're trying to hurt yourself. It shouldn't have happened. She should still be here, as in she should be on earth giving everything.
The pressures that people put on themselves, both in terms of comparing themselves to others, I think with Facebook and Instagram and all these different ways of putting things online, people seem to think that they're left out all the time, or they're not good enough, or smart enough, or pretty enough. What helps when you're depressed is structure. College is a little unstructured, so you might not have class till 3 in the afternoon. You might go drinking on a Wednesday. I mean, it's just your moods are really up and down.
Well, as a whole, nationwide, Active Minds is a club to help people spread the awareness and end the stigma against mental illness. It's been a really big problem for the past couple years that people in college have struggled with depression and anxiety and things that people aren't willing to talk about. Active Minds on Chapman doesn't do as much as I thought it would when I joined the club. I expected them to be there for people anytime that they needed and get them whatever resources were right for what they needed, and unfortunately that's not the case most of the time. There are currently 99 people on the Chapman Health Center waitlist, and 1 in 90 people even get in.
I did try to reach out to the counselors in both high school and college, but I didn't find it to be a lot of help, especially in college because they are dealing with so many people.
A lot of schools don't offer free psychological services still. And I know there's a lot of stigma around receiving help from psychologists, psychiatrists, and I think schools need to do a better job on like breaking down the stigma.
You can be surrounded by people that are like there for you at the drop of a hat, ready to give you all their love, and you can still feel completely alone.
Mental illness is something that affects a ton of people. Hopefully it would be, better to come out about it and, just get help. Maybe even decrease the problem if people are more open about their problems.
We all go through it, and if you're going through it right now, I promise you eventually things will get better. It may not seem like it now, not seem like it tomorrow, the next day, the next week, the next year probably, next few years, but trust me, it will one day.